All right, welcome to a men's work session. I am Connor Beaton. Today, we're going to be diving in and working with a man who, in his childhood, had experienced some complex trauma. And what's showing up in his adult relationship and his marriage, he's recently had a son who is a month old. But what's been showing up in his relationship and his marriage is a kind of freezing, an inability to express himself, shutting down, not being able to make the decisions and create some of the direction that he wants in the relationship. And so we're going to address that by walking him through a little exercise that you will see. And I also give him 2 or 3 things that he can specifically do. I label and sort of identify the complex trauma, break it down. And then you'll notice that I walk him through an exercise. And after I walk him through the exercise and the experience, I give him some very specific pieces of work that he can do in his life to create the first step in being able to rectify some of the abandonment and neglect issues that he experienced growing up. So whether you identify as having complex trauma or not, what I really want you to pay attention to, maybe you are somebody who struggles to connect, struggles to express yourself in your relationship or your marriage. Maybe you are somebody who really struggles to stay connected in your relationship. And the tools that I lay out in this episode are certainly going to support you. So don't forget to like, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this on. Don't forget to man it forward to somebody that you know needs to hear it. And without any further delay, enjoy this free and live coaching episode. All right, my friend, welcome to the Man Talk Show and welcome to a little bit of a one-on-one with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Good, man. How are you feeling about diving in?
I definitely feel a little movement throughout my throughout my nervous system, but like I said, I'm glad to be here.
Good. Good. Well, tell me what you would like to address, confront, or resolve today. What would you like to dig into?
Well, with that, first I want to say thank you just for, doing what you do and creating these spaces for these kind of conversations to be had. There's definitely a resource, that I had been looking for that I didn't know I needed kind of thing. So it's been great to be a part of the Alliance and, um, you know, lead myself up to a point where I could do something like this. Um, the main thing that affected me in my childhood was my parents divorced, and that's echoed throughout my life. And for some reason, I clicked into kind of a mediator role between them and, translating, skewing information, just getting in the middle. And it's pretty much, there's a lot of love there, but from the alcoholism on my dad's side and the distance during my formative years on my mom's side, like it, caused a lot of things that I shoved down pretty deep. And in my mid-20s, I did some individual therapy that really helped me come to understand some things about myself and led me to some clarity of conversations that I needed to have with them that I did have and that were really productive and, cathartic. But now, a few years later, I'm married. I became a father last month. I'm fully in relationship for the first time, and this is sort of a new level of addressing these things. I've never fully been in relationship before, so the way that this stuff manifests now is in my ability to lead in relationships. So that's essentially what brought me to Man Talks and what I think, sort of the basis of what we're talking about today.
When you say the way that this stuff manifests is in my relationship, what's this stuff? What do you mean by that?
I can't remember the gentleman's name that you spoke with recently, but he was Canadian and he spoke about complex trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, a lot of what he said resonated with me where not only does my when I'm having moments of my boy energy or my wound or what, et cetera, all of that, my shadow, my nervous system does get taken over, and I'm aware of that, and I'm not able to exit from. I'm not able to, like, afterward I can recover from it and inject all the logic in the world and feel good about my perspective on having a bad moment later, but I'm not able to cut down the lead time to actually addressing it in the moment.
Hmm.
And what happens is a lot of what he talked about resonated, like fear-based scenarios, like creating threats that aren't there, like creating abandonment scenarios that do not exist.
Uh-huh.
Um, those are the kind of things that my mind will just race of, like seeing a message or misinterpreting a joke or being harsh to criticism in some way. And all of a sudden in my mind, everybody's leaving me.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. How does that show up with your wife and maybe your new child?
The new child, yeah, he's just drinking a ton of milk right now. So, as a new dad, like you're like, oh man, I can't wait to impart things and do things with you. But right now it's a lot of feeding. So I guess the way that it shows up with him is when he's crying and I'm trying to address his needs, I feel like a stress within me, as opposed to just I'm working on it, but my overarching, it's not like I'm a 100% compassionate, just like, oh, you little thing, I'm going to help. I feel stressed and I feel like, oh, I need to fix this. um, so I'm not exactly sure how that's related, but with my wife it's very much me shrinking in moments, like my voice changing, me being on the other side of the room and just desperately wanting attention but not knowing how to ask for it, or keeping things in my head for multiple hours, and then that leads to a moment where I get frustrated. I don't get it. My anger, which I know is under the surface, like through this Man Talks work, I'm like, okay, yeah, I was, there's anger there for the situations that I was put in when I was growing up.
Hmm.
So I'm not trying to pretend like there's no anger in there, but the way that it comes out for me is more like petty. It's not, I don't explode. It's like petty, like boyish, like, well, I don't, I just change. And then she'll be like, you know, after, when I have perspective on it, like, and I'm back in my body, I'll be like, oh, this is the way that I was feeling and this is why. And she's like, why didn't you tell me that? And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't know how.
Hmm. I don't know how to tell you how I feel. I don't know how to
Yeah.
tell you my truth. Like, what would that sound like?
I don't know how to tell you how I feel. I don't know how to stop in the moment and being like, "Oof!" Like I'm on fire right now, like inside, and like um, it's because I, growing up, I wasn't asked how I felt. I can't remember being checked in with emotionally when everything was in, tumult,
Hmm.
and I was so focused on addressing what I thought were my parents' needs so that things wouldn't be worse. The more that I can stomach, like the less the bomb will go off. And so again, in this context with my wife, 3, 5, 10, 20 minutes later, I can have that conversation. But in the moment, I that's what my work is, really, is cutting down the lead time to in the moment, and being able to sit with that feeling instead of it being bigger than me.
Uh-huh. You said something that really stood out to me, and I could hear in your voice that it was pretty impactful for you. You said something along the lines of, no one would check in with me as a boy to make sure that I was okay. And it sounded like there was a lot of emotion attached to that. So just take a breath in to the body and say what it was like to not have parents who were attuned to what was happening with you while chaos was happening in the house?
I know by starting with this preamble, like I'm already doing the thing I was doing, which is kind of protecting them, but there was a lot of love there, but they were so caught up in their own shit that, it was just confusing. It was like things would be one way at one point during the day, and then they would be different the next hour. And with my dad, that was for alcoholism related reasons, and with my mom, that was for just life choices, related reasons. And it was like, um, you guys, you guys aren't okay, so I'm just on standby, and I don't know how to move. And it was the thing of like people would say like, oh, he's so mature for his age, and I resented that so much because I didn't want to be mature. I wanted to just like scream and be like, or scream and cry or whatever, and just be like 10 years old. I didn't want to be, wise beyond my years.
Mm,
you know. So there's some resentment for that.
got it. Take another breath and just tell me what's been happening in your body as we've been having this conversation.
Kind of like definitely my abdomen is tight. Feel it a little bit in my shoulders as well. And I just have a general sort of buzz, you know, coursing through.
Hmm. Say what the buzz is about.
I think it's rooted in confession and, not being practiced in um, feeling like I'm worth confessing my struggle, uh, confessing how much weight I have inside. And you
Hmm.
can like even my voice trembling a little bit right now. It's not I'm not fully resounding or, fully stable. There's a push and pull there.
Mm-hmm.
Me talking through it.
Mm-hmm. So stay with that push and pull. Just take another breath into it. And just in your own way, find a way to have connection with me energetically, emotionally, but just feel my presence with you. Here with you right now in this moment, attuning to your energy, attuning to your emotions, attuning to your story. Say what that's like. And let it do something to you for a moment. Someone's really tuning in to what it was like for you as a boy to be in that environment.
It feels like companionship that I've gained from male friends, but in more abstract ways. Like the friends with which I've really, you know, been able to look in the eye and say, like, yeah, I understand you're fucked up too. Like, what we've connected on has been, abstract things like music or, creating, creating things, the kind of angular take on an interpretive take on how that affects us, or turning it into something. And so what I feel when you say that is a sort of stillness in companionship, and just, I don't have to put on anything in, like I'm imagining you and I, like I'm like looking out over a terrace right now, and I'm imagining you and I like walking together here, and it feels like I don't have to think of anything else to like take our conversation somewhere else. Like I can just take a deep breath and understand that you're occupying that place with me.
Right. Good. Good. So take another breath into your abdomen. And just see if you can connect that tension that was there. You don't have to do anything with it yet. You don't have to soften it or relax it or release it. We're not trying to move it yet. I just want you to connect with it and actually really be with that tension in your abdomen. And just make a statement when you're ready from that place.
I'm here with you. I'm here with that feeling. That feeling is not, that boy is not alone, even if no one else, you know, there's no, I have my own capability of, being with him, being with that feeling, and that's okay.
Breathe in again. I'm not alone anymore.
I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah. Really let that sink in. So my guess is that when your son came into the world, it shook you a little bit. Take another breath. Keep letting yourself feel it. Keep letting it work you. I'm not alone anymore.
I'm not alone anymore. I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah. Say what's happening inside so I'm with you.
It's just like I feel my body instead of the interference within it. Like my hands are right here, my arms are right here, like my stomach, my torso, it's just that.
You're
It's
present.
not, yeah, um, it's not the push and pull.
Yeah. So breathe into that a little bit more and just let it occupy a little bit more territory. Feel it in your hip bones, feel it in your back, your neck, feel it in your thighs and your calves, your feet, toes. Really let it occupy as much territory as you can. I'm not alone anymore. I'm here.
I'm here.
And I'm
Yeah,
not
it's definitely in my legs now. I can feel it's still there a bit, down to my feet,
good.
a little squirmy.
So close the eyes for one more sec, breathe into that. And I really want you to let the whole experience of what you are feeling imprint itself somatically. I call it a somatic screenshot. It's like a body screenshot. This is a place that you can return to. This feeling, this experience, this way of being, this presence is something that you can continue to return to. And I'm going to explain why this is important in a moment. But for right now, just take 10 more seconds and let that notion of I'm not alone anymore take up not only the whole space in your body, but take up some space in the room. See what that's like as you do that.
It gives me some visibility into, people always, it's like, are you extrovert or introvert? It's like, well, it depends on the situation and blah, blah, blah. It gives me like some third party visibility as to what the difference is for me with that. And I think when I've answered that question previously, I kind of hide behind something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I know like, I'm able to be so exuberant, but I'm also not capable of being nearly as exuberant as I can be. Often, I don't know, often, sometimes, and call that being in your head, being in this energy, whatever. It just gives me visibility into um, how wide that gap is.
Right.
And um, and that it is possible for me to err on the exuberant side and what that looks like. But the thing that and I know that, but the thing that I think about is that part of me, it's almost like that part of me needs me to not be in that place. It needs me to not be able to do that. And it's like, that is the image I have of myself. He's that image of a man, that I strive for. Is just like, he's standing there and he's doing so much more than just standing there. He's withstanding things. He's thinking of things. He's considering things. He's calm. He's, you know, powerful, but he's tranquil. And I think about being that way as often as I can. But I know that the deep thing that I feel in my stomach and my body sometimes, it needs me to not be in that place. Like, it
Yes.
just
Yeah. Well,
it tells me you can't.
thinking about being something is different than being it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is what we as men do. And this is part of what complex trauma does. Right. Part of what complex trauma does is it removes or it interferes in our ability to be deeply present in the moment and in our physical body when we feel threatened or unsafe. So one of the first steps in working with complex trauma is to be able to develop safety and stabilization. So the process that I just walked you through was a process of helping you to connect with safety and stabilization in your nervous system, in your body, in your psyche. Now, where did we find that safety? And what is part of the root of what causes you to feel unsafe is exactly what we were pinpointing, which is my guess is that a lot of the time growing up, what was happening is that you felt alone and unattuned to and unattended to. And so your internal state was disconnected from quite a bit. And that's not to blame, shame, or speak negatively of your parents. It sounds like, there was some wonderful things that were there. It's just that it was missed more often than not. You were missed more often than not. And when that happens to a child, we can feel like we're on an island. And when a child feels abandoned or neglected, physically, emotionally, mentally, etc., that causes alarm bells to go off in the nervous system. It causes panic for that child. So my guess, my friend, is that your nervous system has coded or encoded being alone, not being able to connect with others, as a very deep threat. So when your brain identifies like, oh, am I alone right now? Am I disconnected from my wife? Is she pulling away from me? Am I not able to communicate what I need? Boom, alarm bells go off, right? Body, nervous system, mind, all shift into survival mode, protection mode. And then it feels like the gap between you and her gets even bigger, right? So notice, what's the very first thing I had you do? And I'm going to walk you back through this process because this is important, because I want you to be able to replicate this in your life. Okay. And it's somewhat simple, what I'm talking about, but it's challenging in the sense that sometimes when people experience complex trauma, and when I say complex, maybe we should go back and sort of like define some of those things, but there's acute trauma and there's reoccurring trauma. Complex trauma is usually much more subtle, right? Acute trauma is the big, something big happened in one big moment, right? There was an assault, there was an abuse, there was something like that, a death, a loss, etc. Complex is exactly what it sounds like. It's more complicated because there's nuances. There is a subtlety of reoccurring emotional neglect. There's a subtlety of reoccurring abandonment. And so that's what makes it complex. But our nervous system has encoded it a certain way. So with all that said, coming back to, and it's okay if you don't have the answer, it's not a test, you're not going to pass or fail. What was the first thing I had you do?
Start to be in my body.
Great. I got you to connect to what was happening inside of you. And then what was the very next thing I had you do?
I might be skipping a step, but making a statement from that place of once we'd injected some, maybe my answer is what? Sorry, what was the next step?
That's
Maybe
okay. Perfect. Yeah.
I'm saying I can't remember.
I had you connect with yourself, and then I had you connect with me. Okay. So when you start to feel disconnected from others, when you start to feel, oh, I'm alone again, it's going to activate that part of you that felt either emotionally or physically neglected and abandoned at a very young age. And I think some of this is actually quite young. So it really feels young to me. It really feels like this is, infant level pain.
Yeah, can I ask there's that's interesting to hear, but the thing you said just before that, I want to ask something I don't know if struggle is the right word, but I've kind of vacillated between kind of a, dogma type question. Like I don't know exactly which sub attachment style I am within anxious attachment, but it's in that range. And something I've vacillated between in my own mind is I know that self-regulation, self-stability and safety and being able to do that, within yourself is very important. But again, now in relationship with my wife, these things fully manifesting in this way, this being sort of the, my newest leg of this journey in the deepest way that I've felt, the times when I've been able to like messily extract myself from that place, but communicate with her and be like, this is what's going on right now. And she's like, wow, and we connect on that. It feels really, really good and correct and like an evolution to do that. But so it's like I'll hear the dogma of like, no, you need to be safe on your own, etc. But then I'm like, I was always on my own. And so the new thing for me to do, the hard thing for me to do, like the at times impossible thing for me to do, is to take that like plaque and tar and like show it to somebody else
Yes.
and be like, this is gross, but this is what it is right now,
Yeah.
and externalize it with somebody.
Well said. Well said. Yes. So let's just break this down, okay? Every child, in order to form healthy, secure attachment, needs safety from another, needs to be connected to, needs to be prioritized, attuned to, right? Has to have their needs met. When that process is interrupted, it will interrupt our attachment and how we then attach to others in our adult relationships. So what a lot of people say is exactly what you're saying. Be good on your own, right? Be good on your own. And it's like, well, that in this instance actually isn't going to support, like, yes, be okay, be able to self-regulate, be able to attune to what's happening in yourself, be able to give yourself some type of internal safety and stability. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. No problem. That's what you did first. I had you connect to yourself. But the very next step is being able to do that hard thing of, I'm going to make contact with you. I'm going to be in connection with you. I'm going to share what's happening inside of me with you. And I think from a practical point, something that you and your wife can do, and I think that this would be very, very good for a period of time, is that you set a time where every single day you're going to have a check-in on whether you feel alone or connected. And if you are feeling alone and disconnected, being able to express what that's like and one thing that you would like in order to be connected again. Super, super simple, probably going to be challenging. Very, very simple. So it sounds like you might have some people that are like listening to this and they're like, that's it. But it's probably going to be challenging. Because for you, part of the safety and the security that you needed was for somebody to attune to what was happening inside of you. Mom, dad, etc. And so part of the work that you can do is to bring that out with your wife. Here's what's going on inside of me today.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And again, yeah, it does, because the vast majority of times when I do that is in the post, the blast radius of the of the event.
Uh-huh.
It's in the aftermath.
Right.
And that's why I said earlier, like when she, because she damn sure she puts the mirror up like 1,000%, and she'll just, she's why didn't you tell me you were feeling that way? And that's why I say, like, my answer, I was like, the first time she asked me that, I was searching for an answer, and then I finally was just like, I don't know how. Like, that is it. That's the only answer I have. And so I think something like that is, it makes sense because it's proactive and it's like agnostic of whether something just happened or happened 2 hours ago, or, whatever. Because as you can tell, I'm kind of metering myself out by when these, moments happen, when these takeovers happen based on whatever situation.
Yeah.
And so I know in my mind, I'll be like, okay, I want to go this whole week without feeling one of those. And I know that that's a complete fallacy, but it's like,
Well,
I will think,
say more about that. I want to go an entire week without feeling one of those. What does that mean? Without feeling one of what?
the, oh, I'm misinterpreting something, alarm bells, or I'm interpreting something through a filter of my alarm bells going off. Now my central nervous system is kicking up and I'm tight and I'm in my boy energy and I'm on the other side of the room and I wish I could just, all I need is a little bit of attention, and if I could just ask for it, but I don't know how to ask for it. And then I sit in that for, 2 hours, and then after 2 hours, the feeling of wholeness starts to come back and I have perspective on what just happened. And then I come to her and say, or I don't even come to her and say, because she notices and she'll be like, "Are you okay?" And I'll be like, "Well, here's what's been going on inside me for the past 2.5 hours."
Mm-hmm.
And that is a cyclical thing that is not healthy.
Mm. Yeah. Well, it's likely the pattern that you experienced growing up repeating itself. That's likely a part of the pattern where there was a kind of neglect or abandonment that would happen. Then you would feel frozen because your system's collapsing, right? And so it's moving into a freeze response to protect itself. And it's, it's very hard when we are in that, when we're in that hyper arousal and our system's in that arousal and we're trying to protect ourselves. It's very challenging to snap out of it, right? When we're in the flight, when we're in the fight, when we're in the freeze, we're in the fawn, we can talk about, interrupting that cycle. But what we really want to do is to create a new way of being, a new pattern outside of that moment so that you can build the musculature of connection, of finding safety and security and stability in connection. Okay?
Yeah.
Because that is what was interrupted growing up. So when things go wrong, what your propensity is as this sort of maladaptive coping mechanism is retreat and freeze within.
Mm-hmm.
So what a lot of people say to do is like, well, let's just interrupt that pattern in the moment. It's like, well, that's very, very challenging to do.
Yeah.
And usually it's very frustrating for the individual because it's like, I can't seem to snap out of it. It's like, well, right. You need to actually practice this new way of relating outside of the moment where you're already triggered and activated.
Mm-hmm.
So for 2-3 weeks, just set a time to have a kind of check-in, and you check in with yourself first, and then you really deeply connect with your wife. And it would probably be best if both of you just check in with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how I'm doing today. Here's what's been going on inside of me. Great. Thank you for sharing. And she can do the same thing. Here's where I'm at today. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's what's going on inside of me. Amazing. Thank you so much. I had no idea. Super simple. Doesn't have to be complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
It does. And it's like, I, even if it's like, I'm really good at the way that we connect in the words that I use and my eloquence, like in recovery from those moments having happened.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm so great in this, aftermath period, and connecting with her and getting to what we really were trying to communicate and what we really mean. And I feel so bad for, this thing that I'm feeling is not your fault. Like, you weren't there 20 whatever years ago when this stuff happened, but it follows me, and I'm so, and this is what it means for me and you. But that's all in the aftermath of something,
Right.
that's not, it is not proactive.
Right. Yes. Yes. So leading in the proactivity of maintaining that connection.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, there's another piece in here that I don't think we're going to get into today for the sake of time. The other piece is being able to work with some of the material, because I'm being very sort of tactical and practical with you
Hmm.
today instead of taking you through a very deep piece of work. But there's something certainly to be worked with in there around what some of the core causalities or experiences are, or working with some of the core sensations that exist inside of you, um, and some of the core pieces of what happened growing up. That doesn't feel fully worked with to me. And so that's just an open invitation. Maybe at another time we can do that, or I can give you some more insight into what that could look like. Um, but I think that that needs to be worked with. The other challenge that I want to offer you, this sort of action that you can take, is when this experience starts to kick up in your system, right? The buzz, the tension in the abdomen, you have a good awareness of what that feels like already, it sounds like. Uh, I want you to practice what I walked you through. I'm not alone anymore. And I want you to take action on that, whether it's reaching out to, one of your brothers in the alliance, reaching out to a friend, reaching out to, going and picking up your son, and just looking at him and be like, yeah, I'm definitely not alone right now. Like I have this little boy right here, and letting
Yeah.
yourself feel the full gravity of that,
Oh
because
man. Yeah.
say what that does to you.
Yeah. It, I mean, he's so beautiful. He's like, when you're like, you know, you're like, okay, we created this beautiful baby, but there's so much of that beauty that feels like outside of your responsibility. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, the universe just like, took care of the rest, and he's so sweet. And it is, um, yeah, I think in these first few weeks, I've very much just been thinking about what I need to do. Like I've realized that I'm very much approaching my care of him the way that I was approaching my care of my wife when she was pregnant. Like,
Mm,
what do we need to do today to keep you healthy? What's the thing? Okay, very, typical task
uh-huh.
master kind of behavior. But yeah, that's a beautiful thought. And in terms of the exercise, I definitely I've been like, what's my mantra? I don't know what that is. Like the this too is me really really resonates with me and stuff like that. But that feels, I'm not alone anymore. It feels very deep, very deeply true,
Yeah.
because it is true. And it's like, I live in a multi-generational household now, and it's like it's not just, you know, that is true.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Well,
it feels very deep.
we can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. And
True.
my
Yeah.
guess is that that's been your experience for most of your life, is that you've been surrounded by a lot of people a lot of the time and still felt alone a good amount of the time, especially with what's been happening inside of you. And so the beauty of having a child is that in this instance, it's completely eradicated that story.
Hmm.
It's complete, not eradicated it, sorry, but it's completely confronted that story
Hmm.
and kind of called bullshit on it, right? And so my advice to you, if I could give you a sort of practice to take with you, is every night or every morning, and I would be really structured with what I'm about to say, because babies are usually very routined. There's usually like a lot of routine and ritual around babies, which is great.
Yep.
When you are with your son, I would like for you, or I would encourage you to have a kind of gratitude ritual where you're present with him and you hold him, and maybe you're feeding him or you're putting him to bed, whatever that looks like. And you are just saying, thank you for teaching me I'm not alone. Thank you for teaching me I'm not alone. Thank you for teaching me I'm not alone. And let yourself feel the depth of that truth, because I can see that that makes you emotional.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
How's that
That is
land?
beautiful. That's beautiful, and it's like one of those things that's like right here, but you know, some things, someone has to show you the light, and then it's like, oh yeah, that was right in front of my face, you know.
Yeah. My wife does that all the time with stuff in the fridge. I'm
Show
like,
me the light.
yeah,
Yeah.
where is this shit? But I mean, a friend of mine, Chris Williamson, said, great therapy and great coaching is having somebody come into almost like having somebody come into your home and showing you that there's another room there that you didn't know about. And so, I'm glad to hear that this resonated with you. I feel like that's probably a good place for us to pause. I feel like I've given you a couple of things that you can action and execute on. And I'm very curious to hear how those things go, because I think from that place of starting to really build stability in connection and safety in relationship and practicing that and creating it intentionally, you're going to see a lot of shifts in some of the challenges and the issues that you were talking about. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a pretty significant drop off of a lot of that freeze response that's been happening. So let's just pause it there. Do you have any final questions, thoughts that you want to share with me?
I mean, sure, only 1,000, but but thank you is, I think, what I feel.
You got it, brother. You got it. Well, you're certainly not alone anymore. I'm in your corner, rooting for you. Congratulations on becoming a dad. I'm so excited to hear how it goes. Please stay in touch. Reach out, DM me through the platform, and let me know how this unfolds. Truly, stay in touch and let me know how everything's going in the next couple of weeks. And if you have any follow up questions, hit me up. For everybody that is out there tuning in, don't forget to man it forward. There might be somebody in your life that needs to hear this, a man in your life that could use this insight and these exercises and these experiences to be able to break through something in his own life. So don't forget to man it forward and share it with one man that in your life could use it. Until next week, Connor Beaton signing off.